Brick Mansions. All right. First time I saw a poster for it, I was like, I was sad because Paul Walker had just, like at the time, had just recently died, and I see RZA on the poster as well as the guy who did B13. I think it's like, oh, dude's coming to America, to do some stuff. It's like, okay, that's cool. Granted, B13, as as far as story goes, wasn't necessarily a good movie. Wasn't necessarily a good movie. The action, on the other hand, was phenomenal. The basically bringing parkour into a movie the way he did, and like the stuff that this guy did was just sick, just absolutely sick. And I love how he was able to blend that as well as his martial arts style, and even the other actor in the movie. He was actually one of the bad guys that Jet Li fought in Kiss of the Dragon. And like just before he goes up to the goes into the main bad guy, he's fighting those two guys that look alike, and they're both bleach blonde. The first one whose neck he breaks when he slams on the floor, that guy was in B13, and I guess he was a Tresor as well. He was also a free runner because he was doing stuff pretty much equal to the other guy. Then I read the plot to Brick Mansions, and I say to myself, it's like, are you kidding me? They basically just remade B13. I never saw any of the trailers for it, but they basically remade B13 and they named it Brick Mansions. I was like, uh, okay, maybe they improved upon it. I was wrong. Oh man, they basically took B13 and made it lame. It just absolutely lame because at least the French director was able to pick decent extra actors. Um, RZA cannot act. No ifs, ands, or buts, cannot act. And I can't, and as soon as I hear his voice, like, try to be serious, I'm sorry, but it just takes me out of the movie. I cannot take that man seriously. The only thing that I ever, the only performance he ever put on that I saw that I thought was noteworthy was when he was in Derailed with Clive Owen, and I was, spoiler alert, he dies in that movie. He was the only person in that movie who got hurt that should not have. He was basically trying to help Clive Owen out. Clive Owen was about to cheat on his wife, got his butt whooped, got caught up in a scandal, and but everybody in the movie more or less gets what they deserved, except for him. He didn't deserve to get killed like that. He was just a victim. And when to see him do, uh, now granted, he directed Man with the Iron Fist. Man's a huge kung fu fan, huge action film fan. Loves the martial arts. Swears he's a martial artist, but he's not. And for the he wrote and directed it. It was a good movie. It was rushed. It could have been a lot more if he did take it his time. Made it a little longer. If anything, if he'd have made it a trilogy, it'd have been a hell of a lot better. But like I said, the formula was just way too rushed. But it was great. His performance there was absolutely horrible because you hear him talking, like I said, it takes you out of the movie, especially when he played the Blind Master in G.I. Joe Retaliation. Now, G.I. Joe Retaliation was basically a meh, which was still a million and a half times better than the Rise of Cobra. So for him to be in there, be talking, yo, Rashikage, you know, will be avenged, and justice will be served, and bring Storm Shadow here alive, because he must answer for his crimes. It's like, oh my God, just shut up, dude, just shut up already. it can't take him seriously, and coming into this movie, being the bad guy, I just couldn't do it. Then Paul Walker, you know, I've never considered Paul Walker necessarily a good actor. He has shown himself very capable actor. Don't get me wrong, a very, very capable actor, but not necessarily a great one. I wanted the only performance I ever saw, trailer of a movie of his that I wanted to see was Hours, because it was, the story of a struggle with his father with his wife dies due to complications of his birth. His newborn daughter has underdeveloped lungs, so she's not breathing properly. The machine is breaking down. This is the middle of Hurricane Katrina. Everybody's already evacuated the hospital. He's got to constantly crank this generator, and there's people trying to raid the hospital. You're just wondering, oh my God, how's this poor man gonna get out of here alive? Not to mention, how's he gonna get out of it with his daughter? It is just, it just really grabbed at you. And when he died, that movie was postponed. I never got to see it. Um, he died in the middle of shooting a Fast and Furious 7, which I don't know how. They said they're basically gonna do it in a way that gives honor to him. I'm not exactly sure how they're gonna do that unless they kill off his character and that be the end of it. Uh, but him in this movie, oh man, it was bad. He Keep in mind, Paul Walker was a martial artist. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. For those of you that don't know, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu does not translate very well in Hollywood choreography. So they're trying to show him this hand-to-hand combat prowess that he does not have. And, it was more or less pretty lame. On top of that, trying to match him with a guy who he's like 6 inches taller than, and then try to make him just as agile as well. Trying to make him do parkour stuff. Like, it made no sense, because there's parts where they're right on par with each other in one stunt that the both of them will do together, and then in everything else is like, what am I supposed to do? Like, dude, you just freaking side somersaulted off of a dumpster over the hood of a car and landed on your feet, no problem. Why what makes you think you can't do this other thing? It's just ridiculous. The extra actors that they picked were absolutely lame. Uh, they honest to God didn't try hard enough. They really did not try hard enough. The other guy's performance as far as his stunts, always great. I mean, this guy, I'm not sure if he is the inventor of parkour. To be perfectly honest, I'm the inventor of parkour, because I used to run and jump off of stuff all the time. But when I was 9 years old, it was called Darren, get down. It wasn't given a cool French name, and now everybody wants to do it. Uh, yeah, and there's a lot of people watching who are thinking, like, yeah, I used to do that all the time too. But oh man, and then especially the chemistry between Paul Walker and this guy was just it, those two had no business working together, and it's sad. It's really sad that this guy Lee, Paul Walker, is passed away, and everybody more or less worked with him in this movie. They'll never get an opportunity to work with him again. Paul Walker apparently has worked with a lot of certain actors, and more than one time. From what I understand, everybody loved him. Everybody was friends with him. His two best friends, Dooley Hill and Freddie Prinze Jr., since since he was just the jerk, and she's all that. Uh, it's sad that this is one of the things that he goes out with. It was just horrible. The ending changed to where all of a sudden the bad guy is a hero now. It's like, really, you really just nominated a known drug dealer and murderer as for mayor of Detroit. Really? Made absolutely no sense. And The rest of it was just absolutely lame, unfortunately. For those of you who made the mistake of seeing this movie especially in theaters, try to find B13. B13 is a lot better. Still not necessarily a good movie, but great action. They turned the French guy, like, I don't know his name. First off, I couldn't even tell he was French because he spoke with almost no accent in this movie. The only reason why I know he's French is because B13 is a French movie. Uh, in B13, it was his sister that he was rescuing. Here, it's his ex-girlfriend. Then they have his. Then here they have his ex-girlfriend being antagonized by a ugly psychopath lesbian, a lesbian dominatrix. She's just ugly, bad actress, just awful, just absolutely awful. Just and on top of that, the girl that had as his girlfriend wasn't even that pretty. It was supposed to be his little sister. There's a much more of a connection there, who he has to protect, as opposed to just an ex-girlfriend. Uh, once they change that, the dynamic, because I've said it before, when you try to add romance into a story like this, you cheapen the story heavily. I don't, there's so many different examples of that. Um, uh, Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman. The minute that they started having, Clark Kent and Lois Lane uh, dating and making out regularly, the show went downhill. I think it only, like, once they got married, it only lasted one more. It only got one more season, and it wasn't even off. Wasn't even off for that long, unfortunately. Maybe 3-4 years. That was it. That's not. That's not. That's not a successful run. Let's just say might have been a good run, but not a very successful one. Um, there's a lot of other ones. I can't think of any off of the top of my head, but just so many where, you see it's like, oh man, just get it over with. Sometimes it'll compliment it, other times it doesn't. And to throw that in this movie where it was not needed at all, it it definitely cheapened the movie, even more than it already was, which is pretty sad. Uh, that's pretty much it as far as my review of this movie. Um, I'm really looking forward to, and I'm also saddened to have to watch Fast and Furious 7, because that's Paul Walker's last movie. After that, that's it. It was like Bruce. It was like I don't want to say Bruce Lee in Game of Death, because that was a completely different story. Bruce Lee filmed all the fight footage. He basically had no plot to the movie. He's like, well, at least let's get this fight sequence out of the way, and fill for this, like, almost 45-minute long stretch of a fight scene of him going through the pagoda and 3 different levels, and there was no plot to the movie. He just had the idea of just going through that, so he filmed that, and there was absolutely no plot to the movie. Then he films Enter the Dragon, and 2 weeks before it's released, he dies, and he dies from brain aneurysm. And for them to go back later and try to edit it, and get guys that look like him, and chop up a bunch of scenes from other known Bruce Lee movies to try to make it look like did he was actually a part of this disaster. Because the Game of Death movie, the original movie, what they edited, it was just absolutely horrible. Tried watching it. I just can't do it. If they have online the original fight sequences with him and the other 2 guys, and the original dialogue between him and Danny Dos Santo, as well as with him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was definitely a much better movie for that. And basically more or less that's what's happening with Paul Walker now, with Fast and Furious 7. I hope they do a good job. The the last three movies. Granted, I didn't like the first Fast and Furious. I loved Too Fast, Too Furious. That buddy comedy and the camaraderie that you saw between him and Tyrese. It was genuine. There was a definite chemistry and friendship between the two of them, which you could appreciate due to the fact that they absolutely did not have that in Brick Mansions. That was just totally lacking. Then Tokyo Drift. Everybody could agree that's the one we want to forget, but unfortunately, it all ties in. And you know, Fast and Furious, I thought was good, but not good enough for me to want to watch again. Fast Five, another one's like, oh yeah, good, but I don't necessarily care to see it again. But then Fast Six came out. First off, I didn't bother with Fast and Furious or Fast Five because, like I said, after Tokyo Drift is like it's pointless. There's no point, and I didn't even like the first Fast and Furious, so I don't necessarily care. Fast Five, didn't want to see it. Saw the trailers for Fast and Furious 6. I was like, now I gotta go see those other two to catch up because now I gotta see this movie. And Fast and Furious 6 was the best one. Was absolutely the best one. Anybody who watches it, can absolutely agree with me. Uh, but again, it's sad because the minute you sit down, you buy your tickets, you sit down, you watch the movie. As soon as those credits start to roll, that's the end of Paul Walker. And he wasn't even on my he was not even on my list of favorite actors or people that I gotta go out of my way to see, like whenever they come out with a movie or anything like that. But how he went out when he had so much more he could have done. Um, because he did everything. He did the comedy, he did the action, he did the drama, and he was definitely slowly but surely become turning into a really good actor. And to have that cut short, even for the amount of work that he's done, a lot of good work that he's done too. Uh, like I said, once those credits roll, it's bye bye forever. Anyway, so I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.